Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I understand attention is limited and is in fact very valuable. So the fact that you took the time out to click on this video and hear my opinion, it means the world to me. So please voice your opinion in the comment section below. My name is Jahbu, aka Jahbu, lifelong artist, lifelong gamer who loves to talk about the visuals in games. And today we're talking about the visuals that I witnessed over my 172-hour journey to complete this game. So first, I'm gonna get into visuals that I absolutely love. I really like the grit and the tone of its environments. The world of Metaphor has a lot to do with oppression. So when the world reflects that, I think that means a lot. There's a certain grunginess that I came to really appreciate in all of the environments. I noticed the color palette of this game is actually very muted compared to what we typically get from Shin Megami Tensei and Persona. The dulling of the colors go very well with the overall griminess of the world that the team is trying to present. Now, whether the game handles these topics in a very mature way, I think it's left down to a person's personal experience when it comes to race. For example, I'm a black man in America. So looking back through history and what happened to my people across the world, it can get very, very dark. And I feel like the game didn't really necessarily go that dark, and that's okay. It's a video game after all, not a historical documentary. The overall grit and griminess of places like Grand Trad, it really works as a great set piece for telling a lot of the sad stories in this game. Now, I wish they would have went a little bit more darker with some of the environments, a little bit more oppressive, just to drive it home. But I am actually satisfied with what we got. I think my favorite part about the environmental visuals is actually the glorious hand-drawn skyboxes. In fact, I would say this, because I actually made my last video about this. There is a distinct hand-drawn, handcrafted feel to this game that I wasn't quite expecting. And it's throughout the UI. My last video was in fact about the UI, just so I didn't have to go over it in this video. So if you want to hear me talk about my actual favorite part about this entire experience, check out my last video, because the UI is masterwork. The next thing that I really found fascinating about Metaphor ReFantazio is in fact the portrait art. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this one from my dear Persona 5 fans, but I think they did a much better job with the portraits in Metaphor versus Persona 5. And don't get me wrong, I'm a major Persona 5 fan. I played the game twice. I played the regular edition and I played the Royal Edition as well. So I really, really love Persona 5. But I feel like the line work here is way stronger. The color choices are way stronger than the portraits that were done for Persona 5. There are a couple of reasons why I like the portraits here better than Persona 5. One, I think they're far more detailed. Two, I think the shading is more gradual, more subtle. You'll notice it fades over the character's form very gracefully. And three, I really dig the hair in this game. I really like how much detail they crammed into each portrait without losing the overall style and sensibility that they're trying to capture throughout the rest of the game. And I talked about how muted the color palettes are in the environments, and that is in fact a stark difference from the actual character portraits, where the saturation is way higher than pretty much anything else in the game. Maybe except for the UI. But these portraits, they really pop, and I really appreciate them. And I think character design in general, especially the main party, I feel like they're drawn very well. Yeah, some people might say conceptually the character designs are a little bit generic, but I think there's a lot of nuance there, and I really like it. Some of my favorites, the brilliant pirate Nearus. I really like this guy's design. If I was in this game, I would definitely be one of his pupils. I also like Yuffie. I think Yuffie's design is gorgeous. I love her purple eyes with the blonde hair, and most of all, I love that nice flowing cloak. I like the fact that they went with a polka dot pattern for her cloak, because it indeed reminds me of the third eye that's easily seen on her character portrait. I even like the design of our main protagonist, Travel Boy. I like the fact that he kind of reminds me of Mega Man in a way. But more than that, I like the fact that he actually is a good representation of anxiety. This guy never looks sure, and his design never looks sure. He looks like he's someone who is not quite confident that he can do what he set out to do. And that made him, in my opinion, more interesting. Typically in a lot of JRPGs, RPGs, we always get a confident hero. So it was very refreshing to see a different tone in this game, and I really appreciate it. I mean, even the guy's eye colors aren't sure which one. It's as if the artist couldn't decide which color to go with, either blue or yellow. And I really dig it. The heterochromia works, in my opinion. Another character that I actually really like, but it's not just because of the way he looks, it's because of his behavior, his voice work, and just how he is in the story, is actually Luis. Luis is a very conniving bastard that I really like. They show you how villainous he is in the beginning of the game, and I think his design looks villainous. It looks like someone who is very elitist, who is very sure of themselves, so sure of themselves that in fact they want everyone else to be under whatever they deem as correct and right or righteous. And I think this pompous arrogancy is captured very well in his character design. His long flowing blonde hair with the bags under his eyes, his broad ass shoulders that scream, I am in the military and I am full of power, really works for the villain that is Luis. Excellent. He's actually one of my favorite characters. So yeah, Atlas Studio Zero, they really outdid themselves in these portraits. Another fascinating thing about this game, and if you have never played this game, I beg you, just fast forward. I'm going to talk about a couple of enemies. The humans in this game, I really love. One of my favorite types of art is in fact surreal art, aka surrealism. One artist that comes to mind that I've admired for decades is in fact Salvador Dali. Now I know he wasn't the best of person, but his art, wow, did it inspire me so much in college. So here, instead of Salvador Dali being referenced, they referenced the horrific art of human. What's it called? You say it? Hey Siri, Unanimous Bosch? No, Hieronymus Bosch. Now, Hieronymus Bosch was one of those artists that I was well aware of in college, but I didn't like looking at his work. And the reason why I didn't like looking at his work is because he indeed painted hellscapes. And I must admit, yeah, back then I was way more religious than I am now, but that seeing a visual representation of what you innately fear because you were raised to fear it as a child come to life in an illustration, it just didn't sit right with me. It was just too weird. The oddity, the weird creatures and the weird environments, they just made me feel very unsettled. And that's what that work is supposed to do, and it did it well. And I think it's the same thing with the humans in the game. The humans in the game I really like because I feel like the designers, artists really took off the limits of their creativity. And it really shows. So the twisted, nightmaric, horrifying creatures of Bosch are definitely represented very well here. One of my favorite things about how these artists handled these humans is actually how liberal they are with human orifices, body parts, and how willy-nilly they are with the anatomy of these things. They are so weird and uncomfortable that I am actually more intrigued by it. Each human felt unique, so unique that I actually wanted more. I felt like they kind of made around 6 of them and then they just kind of stopped. And I wish they would have done the same thing to the regular enemies in the game. The regular enemies in the game are a far cry from what we get from the actual human. I don't know if it was a budgeting thing or they didn't have enough time. that sensibility didn't really bleed over into the regular enemies. Now, yes, there are a few of them that look weird and look like they're straight out of a Bosch painting, but by and large, a lot of the enemies are just kind of generic. Like a Minotaur. Like, I mean, I've seen a Minotaur. They're not that interesting anymore. So I love the bold surrealism that is in the humans, and I wish that not only infected the rest of the enemies, but the rest of the world in Metaphor ReFantazio. I was hungry for more, and I didn't really get more. Even the last boss, which I'm not even gonna show, I think captured that Bosch aesthetic in their way. And it's just a shame that it wasn't more. I want more. I want more because it's good, man. So just a couple of other things that I really love, and this necessarily doesn't have to do with the visuals in the game, but the music. And I heard people talking about the music is trash, and my question is where? Because this soundtrack repeated over and over in my head, and it kept drawing me and pulling me back to play more. And it set out to do what it set out to do. Just like the Bosch weird, twisted, inspired humans, the music does the same thing. The regular battle music uses voice in a very odd, surreal way. It really reminded me of the liberties that were taking in the Nier Automata soundtrack, another soundtrack that I really love. So I gotta give props to the music. The music is fantastic. Overall, aesthetically, this is a beautiful game, in my opinion. But there are a few things that really bug me about the visuals. Okay, so one of the things that I'm starting to notice about Atlas games or Studio Zero games, and I kind of noticed this in Persona 5, is the inconsistency between the character portrait and the in-game models. Now, yes, I know that this may very well be a budgeting issue, but as a person actually playing the game, it starts to stick out. The characters have a procedural stiffness to them that really takes away from the expression that they're trying to express. Most of the time when a conversation is going on, I'm not even looking at the models that are moving around all robotically. I'm actually still looking at the character portraits and listening to the amazing voice work. So it's a shame that out of everything that makes these characters, the actual in-game models drag everything down. So it's a real shame. My dream is that eventually the in-game visuals will be just as detailed and expressive as the character portraits. Can you imagine playing a Persona game and everything looks that detailed? I mean, it will make a tear come to my eye, like seriously. Because I want this team to do well. So the gap between art direction and technical execution is very, very heartbreaking to me. So even worse than the in-game character models is actually the NPCs in the game. This is my most hated thing about Metaphor ReFantazio. The NPCs are literally so bland and so generic looking that I'm surprised more people have not mentioned this in their reviews and opinions. And I must admit, Metaphor is not the only culprit that is guilty of this visual sin. Having bland NPCs, bland citizens, denizens, subjects in your world, it really takes down that immersive atmosphere that the game is trying to create. When I am in your game for over 100 hours and I see the same NPCs over and over and over again, it really starts to grind on your appreciation of the world. One of the worst crimes that I've witnessed in visuals when it comes to games is in fact the over-reliance on copy and pasting. There's some cutscenes where something dramatic is going on and then my eyes will just recognize that this crowd is actually copied 3 different times in the same scene. And that really pulls me out of it. It really does. Like, I have to make it a point to ignore it. I have to literally use my creativity to mentally put a mask over the redundancies that is captured within these NPCs. And they do a similar thing with the enemy designs. Copying, pasting, and color swaps, sometimes they work, right? But when you see it over and over and over again, it grinds your gears to a halt. And then you're gonna wanna play something else or move on, missing out on what could potentially be a great story. So it sucks, it does. And it sucks that it's here. And the last thing that I wasn't really feeling about this game, and I understand, yes, it was made on the PS4, but I don't think that's a good excuse anymore because we have very beautiful visuals in terms of graphics on the PS4. I don't even have to mention in games because you guys know already. But literally the graphics in general, I think could use a bump. But it's not that big of a deal because as we've seen over the previous week or so, E3 week, Studio Zero has in fact improved their visuals in Persona 4 Revival. So I'm not even worried about it. But for Metaphor in particular, the graphics need work. Yes, I love the environments, but when certain textures look very muddy, when certain textures literally suck the life out of the art design because they're so flat and bland, that is an issue, unfortunately. And I mentioned the skyboxes, how beautiful they were. Well, sometimes I would force myself to literally only look at the sky to avoid the ugliness of some of the textures that make the land. So graphically, the one thing that really bugged me, and I know this is gonna sound kind of lame, but I don't like the way the dragons look in this game. I don't like the way their textures are applied to their models. It looks very bad. And dragons are cool, man. It's literally one of the coolest things you can have in a fantasy game. A wyvern, a dragon, we all love the dragons. I'm not even that big into fantasy games, but I play them all the time. So seeing the dragons get this kind of treatment, right? You're so powerful, but yet so ugly that I don't even want to look at your polygons anymore. That's a big problem. That's a major problem. But thankfully, all these nitpicks, all my qualms with the visuals in the game wasn't enough to hold me back from ultimately enjoying it and wanting more. Now, if they release a Royal Edition for this game, I can't say I'm not gonna play it. I might wait a while though, but I would be interested in more of that, especially if it has like a graphical update, which I'm pretty sure it probably won't. But nonetheless, I know one. I have a feeling one is coming, just like the Persona series, just like the Shin Megami Tensei series. So my opinions overall when it comes to Metaphor ReFantazio, who should pick this up? Should artists study this game to get a better understanding of how to handle your visual style? I would say if you have the patience, yes. You have to treat this game like a book, like a novel. You cannot rush through this game. And I'll admit, during the last 10 hours or so, I started to get a bit bored, right? I started to like, kind of, I don't know, I kind of wanted to like move on at a certain point. You know those JRPGs, man. JRPG players, you know what I'm talking about. It's like when you get to that 75, maybe, I don't know, like 80% of the way there, you're just ready. And I heard the last boss in this game pissed a lot of people off. I still don't think it's as bad as the stupid ass robot boss that was timed in Persona 5. So if you have the patience to stomach a long journey with a lot of reading, a lot of exposition at a very slow pace, and a really cool combat system, then I would say pick it up. I got the game on sale for $20, and to me it was worth every cent. And it was actually worth my time because I ended up finding a lot of enjoyment while playing the game. It became a cozy game that I would play on my G Cloud or on my Portal, curled up in a ball like I'm in middle school. Again. So for those of you who already forgot who I am, my name is Jahbu Ori, aka Jahbu, lifelong artist, lifelong gamer that loves to talk about the visuals in games. If you're interested in seeing my work, you can simply head over to my website, jahbu.com. I have a large selection of work that I have worked on for the last 7 or 8 years. Please be sure to sign up for the newsletter so you can know when I drop new paintings. I promise I will not spam your email. So until my next video, whenever that drops, please head to the comment section below and let me know what you thought about Metaphor ReFantazio. Did you finish the game? How many playthroughs did you do? Did you get to level up all the archetypes? How did you like it? Let me know below. Until next time, my wonderful people, one love, peace.